You're tuned in to Live Farm Girl Fit.
It's fitness as a lifestyle.
Keep it simple, get it done.
I know food is fuel. What I'm making at home tastes better.
Hard work yields results.
The best part of Farmgirlfit is the people.
Hi, welcome to Live Farm Girl Fit, episode 2. We're your hosts, Jaunessa and Jenni, and today we're going to be talking about fueling your life, fueling your day with food.
Yes, so as women in the fitness community, we are constantly getting questions asking us, what do you guys eat? What do you like to make for meals? And so that's kind of where we're coming from today. We're coming from a fitness background. We're not nutritionists or dietitians, but we definitely have an opinion and a perspective on nutrition that we'll share with you today. So we'll start out with, I'm going to ask Jaunessa, what are the overlying themes or the foundations of your nutrition, overlying concepts that you really go by?
I really try to focus on eating vegetables, mostly vegetables, a lot of vegetables, and good quality, high quality meats. Lean meats, if they aren't necessarily of the highest quality, and we can kind of touch on that later, but and really cutting out anything that's processed food, anything that doesn't come naturally from the earth, and yeah, and really, I mean,
you're a good planner.
Yeah, I try to be. I try to really not. I totally just lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So no processed food.
No processed
Lots
food.
of vegetables.
Lots of vegetables, and really trying, what I was getting to, this is where thoughts are back, is on portions. So I don't really focus on necessarily how much I eat. I focus more on what I'm eating and find that I really can't overeat as long as I'm eating the right kinds of foods.
That is a good.
So,
I totally agree with all of those. I really am about nothing in excess. So even some of the healthy foods out there that label themselves as healthy, they can still be processed and unhealthy. They have that look of being healthy. Those can really be something that you have too much of. So I think really nothing in excess. Yeah. Organic as much as possible. And then of course the processed thing is huge for me. And I think I'm a little too simple when I think about food, but I definitely think that the simpler it is, it's definitely better. Like you said, it's dirty. We call it dirty eating. It comes from the dirt. It's out in the dirt. You should probably eat it. If it's anything that you have to, open, or things you can't pronounce, things like that, that's definitely something you want to avoid as much as possible. So,
yeah, and thinking, kind of going along with that simple philosophy, if it is something that's coming in a package or in a bag, it's very, very minimal ingredients. You recognize every single one. So if you're eating, what's a good one?
Breyer's ice cream, they say that ice cream, obviously you're not going to have that all the time, but I do respect that they say it's like milk, cream, sugar.
Eggs.
It's like in their commercials that it's like 4 or 5 ingredients. So
yeah.
Even if it is ice cream.
You gotta have something every once in a while. Well, and kind of going along with that whole eating dirty philosophy, and kind of where part of the name Farm Girl Fit comes from is the fact that Jenni grew up on a farm.
Yeah, so I think my palate is very simple because of the way I was brought up. We were a very meat and potatoes type of family. Literally, our meat came from down the road if it didn't come from our backyard. My brother raised cows and was like best carcass, and it sounds kind of gross, but I mean, raised, things that are local, the meat that's local, that's what I grew up on, as well as not a lot of processed food. I mean, our fast food even was like 20 miles away and it was like 1 A&W. So just not having the access to that was kind of interesting. And then just like the soda and chips, like my mom, she just never had that. And so I feel like that's kind of like my background is that I like simple food because that's kind of how I grew up. But then, college was a different story. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Okay. So So we've all evolved our eating.
Yeah.
Talk about how maybe you've evolved in your eating.
Well, I was going to say that I had a little bit different lifestyle growing up, or we ate very differently growing up. I'm one of 6 kids, and we were all very active in sports, and both of my parents worked. So, like, sitting home or coming home to a home-cooked dinner every night just wasn't a reality in our family. We did eat quite a bit of fast food, actually, but then, I mean, we did that the best. My parents were doing the best they could, and that is what it was. But then that started to evolve, and once you start branching out on your own, you kind of start taking a little bit more responsibility for everything really in life. But one of those main things is food, and what do I want to be eating? Why do I want to be eating it? Is it just because it's convenient, or is it actually, is my body responding in some way to this, good, bad, or otherwise? And I think college is part of where that starts, and it starts because you're like, oh my God, all the food, all the cookies, all the ice
beer.
cream, all the beer.
No, but honestly, we both went to Gonzaga University. Go Zags. But yeah, we were there when we had the old COG, right? It was this tiny little place. You walk in, there's just all you can eat buffet, everything. Like, I put cookies in my pocket, like, to leave. I mean, this is the thing, like, when you might have this like foundation or this upbringing a certain way, but really when you get to college, or you have that sort of quarter life moment where you're in charge of yourself and in charge of your food, I think that's when something happens where you actually, well, it's called the freshman 15, but after that, you really do take on this responsibility to eat better and treat yourself a little better, I think, in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you do talk about feeling the response that your body has to food, and I think that's a really big concept that we want to hit with our members and everyone listening, is that you actually notice when you have a negative or an intolerance to a certain type of food.
Yeah, and vice versa when you're feeling really good. So I think for both of us, it kind of was in that post-college or towards the end of college, once we started getting more into exercise and fitness, and then all of a sudden, like, it turns out eating 12 cookies right before you work out isn't really a good idea. You don't feel great. So you start learning how can you eat better to fuel the things that you want to do in everyday life, which is really what we're all about. And it starts with being tuned into those different responses. If you're inflamed, if your eyes are puffy, if your stomach hurts, if you just feel weak or lethargic or tired constantly, it's a pretty good sign that maybe what you're eating isn't doing the best for you.
Right, and there could be other factors like not getting enough sleep and other things, or actually working out too hard or too much, and some of that, and stress, obviously, but really a lot of those things that a lot of people overlook, I think, are really associated with the types of food that they're eating, but also even noticing if you are eating, healthy food, that some things would just be bothering you in a different way, allergies or an intolerance of some sort. So,
and I think something that's really important for everybody to recognize is the place that we're at now with the way that we eat isn't where we started, 10, 15 years ago. That's kind of what we're trying to get across, is that it is an ever-evolving process, and the longer that you do it and the more in tuned you become to your body, the more refined and the more kind of specific you can get with the way that you eat and how it makes you feel. So I know I eat very differently than the way I did 10 years ago. Maybe not very differently, but it's become much more refined. So when I tell people, like, this is what I made for dinner, and they're like, wow, how did you know that was a good thing? Well, it's taken me a while to get here. It didn't happen overnight, so I didn't implement a ton of changes all at once.
Right. I think that's a really key thing. So when we're talking about, like, to our members and stuff, and we've done past challenges, the 30-day challenge, or we do weekly things, but what we really want to key in on is not making it this everything changes all at once. So maybe you get into working out a little bit and you start enjoying that, and then all of a sudden, now you want to change your diet and everything's changed all at once. So we really feel like a progressive, balanced approach to changes in your nutrition and your fitness really are the healthiest way to go about it.
And it's really leads towards that habit building to where you're no longer really having to focus on and really making an effort to eat something or not eat something. It just becomes what you do, and that's really the end goal.
And I think when people hear that, I'm not measuring my food and I'm not having shakes for meals. I think some people sort of are taken aback by really how we eat and really how things that we don't do and being in the fitness community.
So we'd kind of like to touch on that. So on exactly the way we eat. So Jen, give me some examples maybe of what like a week looks like for you, or a day, a general day or something.
Okay, so I kind of grew up not eating breakfast, so I'm not like a huge breakfast person, but definitely if I'm coming to the gym to train or it's an early morning or something, then I will do some eggs. I really love to make what I call a breakfast salad. It sounds kind of weird, but I'm an egg freak, and so I'll do a big greens, like when I say big, like I like to tell people that my jaw starts hurting because I'm chewing so much, but I eat a ton of greens. I'll do big greens, maybe 2 or 3 pieces of bacon that are kind of chopped up, and then a couple eggs. But inside the salad, I mean, there's tomatoes, avocados, pretty much any vegetable that I have, I'll put that in there, and then a really simple dressing. For lunch, I really I do this for my kids, and I do this a lot, is sweet potato, like a microwaved sweet potato with some grass-fed butter. Again, I might have some salad, but I really love soups, really hearty soups. And then for dinner, I try to think about my kids, and we'll kind of maybe touch on that. But a nice, healthy portion of protein, not too much protein. 3/4 of my plate usually is some sort of roasted vegetable or, again, greens.
And that's one of the things I try to do too, is vegetables at every meal. And when I think about vegetables, or when we think about vegetables, it's green. That's something that's green.
Right.
I'm not, yes, carrots technically qualify as vegetables. Potatoes might also, but just their makeup's a little bit different. So I think about something green. One of the things I do for breakfast as an alternative to a salad is still getting greens in, but really easy while I'm scrambling eggs. Eggs are a big one for breakfast for me. I'll just put a handful of spinach, just regular baby spinach, on a plate, pop it in the microwave for a minute while the eggs are scrambling, and it just wilts it a little bit. So sometimes that texture first thing in the morning, you're like, I don't want a salad for breakfast.
And didn't you post one time you had like a avocado, like a half avocado for breakfast before you came to work really early? And I think people don't think about food just in its simplest form. And my husband and I were talking about, Italians, they have, for dessert, they'll have whole fruit. They'll have pieces of fruit, like roasted fruit, or, on the barbecue or something like that. It's like thinking about things as they are instead of thinking about how you can mutate it into something that looks like something that you want to eat, or reminds you of something that's maybe an unhealthy treat. So it's like really respecting, food as it is.
Yeah. And, talking about those different native cultures of the world. And, one way people think about, okay, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating lean protein and vegetables, so I'm eating chicken and broccoli all the time.
Every day, every single meal.
Of course you're going to burn out on that. I mean, I don't know if I could eat it even once a week. But if you think about a lot of the native cultures, Italian, Indian, Thai, any of those things, they really use the spices, the herbs, the flavors that are...
The fats.
The coconut milk's a big one in Thai, that are native to their kind of their geographic region, and it's amazing the flavors you can get out of food without pumping in sugar or whatever other crap.
And also looking at these cultures and different ways of eating, there's really not a secret, one diet fits all type, way to eat. Honestly, the cultures of the world, the healthiest ones, might eat things that as Americans we think are unhealthy.
Right. Rice is a big one, in a lot of Asian cultures, that they eat white rice, not brown rice, not whatever.
Long grain.
Yeah, just regular white rice. And it kind of goes back to the everything in moderation idea. And if it's something that's good for your body and your body responds well to it, tune into what your body responds well to, then it's okay.
Individualize your nutrition, and, knowing yourself and what is best for you is really the key, and really what's best for your family.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that I do is I typically have do have breakfast as long as I'm not getting up super early to train. That makes it hard at 4 a.m. I don't want scrambled eggs and a big meal. So usually I'll take something with me that I eat kind of midway through. But otherwise, my other 2 meals really go hand in hand, lunch and dinner. In that, whenever I make dinner, I always make plenty enough to have leftovers for lunch the next day. So it takes care of 2 meals at once at least, and sometimes that means by later in the week we have a little extra leftovers, and then I don't have to make dinner. It's just my husband and I. So
I think we really are on the same page with that. Like, I feel like when my mom or somebody comes over to eat and I'm like making huge amounts of food, they're like, really? But I mean, we eat a lot of food, but also just having it there is such a key thing.
Right. And while you're taking the time to prepare it, why not it takes just as much time to make 1 pot roast as it does to make 2 pot roasts or whatever.
Right. You got everything out. You're making a mess. Might as well keep it rolling. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, what a day looks like for me. And in terms of what makes up those different meals, always meat. I mean, we're meat eaters, so there's always a meat. I try to keep variety in that, mixing in fish, poultry, and then pork and beef are the big ones. Occasionally, if we're lucky, we'll have some wild game. My dad's a pretty avid hunter. My husband's getting into hunting too, so that works great. Super lean meat there. So try to keep variety in that. And kind of what I was touching on before about lean meats is, this is actually something I had learned, so this is something I've gotten more refined on, is that one of the reasons lean meats are encouraged is because if it's not necessarily the highest quality, a lot of the chemicals and the processed hormones and those extra things that they put into the meat are harbored in the fat tissue. So if you aren't in a place where you can always buy organic, it is more expensive, then look for those leaner cuts. But if you can buy organic, buy grass-fed, it's local, you know where it comes from, then really you don't have to necessarily have the leanest meat. And to be honest, a good ribeye is much better than
Right, exactly. Marbleization.
tasty.
Yeah, so when we were talking about high quality food, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought now too. Too many things here.
Oh shoot. Well, what I was, along with the meat, it's vegetables. So like Jen said, 3/4 of the plate, at least 2/3 of the plate covered in vegetables, and whether it's a big salad or it's a roasted veggies, keep variety in that too.
I remember what I was going to say now. We were talking about how so if you did buy a bulk thing of, meat, and you're going to have it, it has an expiration date, right? Maybe you don't want to freeze it, or you don't have a freezer, and you're going to cook it all up. You can cook it in different ways and making it interesting. So what are some of the things that you do to make different meats or different bulk purchases interesting or different?
Well, pork shoulder is one of the big ones that we do, and so the easiest way to do it for me is a crock pot. And that's one of the things I know, if I'm working late, if I'm coaching an evening shift where I'm not going to be getting home till 8 at night, then it's a crock pot day for sure, because I can do it in the morning and then it's just ready when I come home. So crock pot, and really just trying to keep it simple. But
spices,
different spices. I usually look at maybe something that's kind of a fajita mix or taco seasoning mix if I'm doing it, or we do a Kahlua pork that's actually really, really simple. It's just salt and liquid smoke, and you throw a banana in there for a little flavor, but super easy. That's one that can be done in the crock pot or in the oven, which makes it nice. And then just once that meat is cooked, repurposing it. So you eat it plain, you throw it on a salad, you make it into tacos or lettuce wraps.
Right.
Just using it different ways. Throw it in with some eggs to make a scramble. Lots of different variety. Right. And it's the same can be said for any ground meat, turkey, beef, whatever.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you are talking about feeding like a lot of different people, or women in general, or a lot of you are mothers, and you're sort of in charge of the prepping, the grocery shopping, and then feeding different ages of people that have their own expectations and opinions of what they should be eating. For instance, right now I have a 3.5-year-old, and a 10-month-old, and I find it interesting when I am thinking about what we're going to cook, that my 10-month-old is a lot more receptive and easier to cook for than my 3-year-old. And I know that many women, they'll kind of concede in a way and make multiple meals for their kids, but I definitely have tried to avoid that as much as possible. once in a while you can't help it, you know, the 3-year-old needs to eat something, so you kind of let them eat that. But I'm not going to eat that, and if my 10-month-old is eating what we're eating, the healthier food, then obviously I'm not going to give him what the 3-year-old is eating. But definitely, I know that a lot of you are considering, you know, feeding your entire families. So I think that having these simplified recipes or these meal preppings that you do, you can definitely address different tastes and varieties that way.
You know, that's really funny. I just got my hair done. I was talking to my hairdresser. She has, I think, he's a 10-month-old, and she was talking about how well he eats, and she like carries his food and prepares all this stuff, and he's such a good eater and will literally eat anything.
Yeah.
She was like, I just need to get on the NASH diet. Why do I take so much care with how much he eats?
I was always thinking that. Yeah, I know. I was like thinking, why don't people eat more like toddlers? Like not the 3-year-old toddler, but like the younger toddler, because that's the most simplest food that you give them. Even those organic packets that you can buy, there's like 3 ingredients, or it says exactly what's on there, and maybe there's lemon juice or citric acid or something in there to, you know, help keep it preserved. But really, those things are lifesavers, and and I've seen a couple girls in here have them.
Yeah,
you know, they're like sweet potato and apple. Just
right,
I gotta go or whatever. But I mean, if people really thought of their food as they're thinking about feeding their babies and their children those first foods and things, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, that's really how we should be eating.
And to kind of branch out and try things that maybe you haven't tried before. If there's a vegetable you've never heard of, or you really hated Brussels sprouts, how your mom cooked them when you were a kid.
Change.
Yeah, totally change. And try it again and see if you might like it. I think that's one of the reasons, like, 10-month-old, they love everything because everything's new, texture's new, flavor's new. And so branch out, try something.
Yeah. And a big thing, another thing that we want to touch on that we think is really key is creating these healthy habits, as you said earlier, as second nature. So in my opinion, I think that a lot of women have unhealthy relationships with food, which can limit their want to branch out and try something different. Someone once told them they need to eat this, and that's what they're going to do, and it's a punishment. It's not enjoyable. It's not a social thing. It's very scientific or weighed and measured. And I really feel like creating these healthier habits that just come second nature, or at least in a process become second nature, rather than maybe an unhealthy motivation, is definitely more of a sustainable thing to do, rather than, you know, I really want to get back into my pre-baby jeans, or I really need to look this certain way, or I want to change my body in this certain way, instead of their motivation really being something that is substantial in a way that is something they can really hold value to, like aging well, feeling well, working out well, having a lot of energy, things like that, that really I think will be a more long-term, healthier way to do it.
And I think it starts with just trying to really be tuned in to the way your body responds, and really think about, how does this make me feel, not how does it make me look. And it's a really big one. And we hear often that, you know, women will say, I don't know what to eat, so I don't eat.
They'd much rather not eat because they're going to make a wrong choice, or they don't feel like they're making their, you know, an educated choice,
which is such a slippery slope, because then all of a sudden you haven't eaten for however many hours, and then this candy bar is sitting here, or this bag of whatever's convenient is just there, and you grab it and you eat it because you're starving, and then it's just kind of a vicious cycle. You feel guilty about it, you know you shouldn't have done it, but then you don't eat again for several hours. So what we want to really have people focus on or establish is, you do need to eat, focus on eating good food, and try at first to not worry so much about how much it is in terms of like weighing it out in advance, but be more in tune to, oh, I'm still hungry after I ate that, or wow, I shouldn't have eaten that much, that was too much, and just what you're feeling when you eat, after you eat.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they'll buy those food journals, and I think that that's a good way to help sort of just to look at the last week, and just to see, like, honestly, people don't maybe realize exactly how much food they're consuming, or what's in their food they're consuming, but just to have a little bit of a perspective, to maybe test it out for a week and see if that's something that actually gets you thinking in the right way, in the right direction, and kind of making choices as a habit rather than or better choices as a habit rather than just motivation to, lose 10 pounds or whatever. So looking back at, so in your food journal, you would say how it made you feel. You wouldn't just be saying, I ate half a cup of this and blah, blah, blah. You would actually be throughout the day saying like, I felt really lethargic at 3:30 or my eyes are kind of puffy, or just some of those things in your food journal rather than just exactly what you ate. But then again, you don't want to feel super stressed out about it. So if that's going to stress you out, I feel like you shouldn't do that. But having a better relationship with food I think is a huge deal.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons when we've done nutrition, I don't even want to call them challenges, but focuses or events, those kinds of things in the gym with our members, we have tried like the 30-day, the Whole 30 is one that we did, and in its own right has a lot of really good concepts to it. I will say, if you're thinking about doing the Whole 30, make sure you read the book first. It starts with food, because it gives a lot of background into the reasons why it's just 30 days. The rules are pretty strict, but why you can commit to it and do it for 30 days is sort of a reset.
So if you don't read the book, maybe not just jump right into it.
Yeah, really don't. It's kind of sets you up. It gives you some foundation for the background and puts you just mentally in a state where you're prepared for it. Otherwise, it can be a very defeating process. You feel like you can't go out to eat, you can't hang out with your friends because you can't drink, and it's
everything's too stressful. Yeah. It's too much overload all at once. It's all or nothing, and maybe that works to start the process. Like I feel like if you have significant weight to lose, and I'm talking about significant, that's a good starting point to maybe lose that initial weight to be able to begin to move in a way that you want to.
Yeah.
But
it's one that we tried in the gym, and really what happened is some people did read the book and were able to get really a lot out of the 30 days. It was meaningful for them. It wasn't too stressful. It was what they needed to reset. But a lot of people didn't. And so then it became this stressful, burdensome.
I can't have this. I can't have this.
Yeah, just everything's negative, very negative. So one of the things when we're doing kind of global for all of our members in the gym that we try to focus on, it's kind of week by week, and focus on one thing at a week or per week, and then it's progressive. So it starts with something simple, and then it kind of progresses from there and grows.
And it builds, and that's kind of what we're coming up to doing. Like, we don't want to call it a challenge, but we are coming into a nutrition focus that we're going to do with our members, and we really want it to be progressive and something that can add on to itself, and something that people can grasp onto. And then as you get down into maybe into the weeks a little bit, then people will branch off and make it a little more specific to what exactly works for them or what their specific goals are.
Yeah, so we will have all the information posted on our website. So if you are not a member and kind of want to follow along with that, stay tuned for it. If you are a member and excited about it, or if you have, for anybody, if you have ideas or tricks that you've learned in your healthy eating process that you've kind of gained through that, then please share that when we get this posted up. Share it in the comments. Let us know any questions or things that you have, or if there's anything you want us to go into more specifically.
And we have a hashtag that we've used on past, like for years. It's called, it's hashtag FGF Eats Real Food. And we've used it for a variety of different nutritional challenges, but you can look on there for recipes and other people's tips. And we'll continue to use that. And Jaunessa still uses that a lot when she posts food, and I will continue to do so as well. That's something you can look for as well on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. So I think a couple good take homes is in terms of how to eat. I think we've shared a couple of kind of the way our daily life looks. But of course it really starts in terms of knowing what you're going to cook with going to the grocery store and shopping. And one of the things that we've heard a lot about is kind of a perimeter shopping, right? You may have heard that term before. Do you want to talk kind of more about what that means?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of, in my head, I think of it as like a grocery sweepstakes or something. Like, say that you have like 30 minutes to get in and out of a grocery store, and the majority of your time should be spent on the perimeter. A lot of grocery stores are set up this way, where obviously you come in, you go around, you go to the produce section, you go to the meat section. Around the outside there's dairy and eggs, and then frozen.
All right, we're back. Sorry, a little technical difficulties there with our camera. But what I was talking about is that there are, depending on what you're buying from, there are different grocery stores, I guess, that you could shop at in order to, A, be cost efficient, and to be time efficient also. So big things that you would want to stock and just kind of have on hand, you might get at a Costco. So not necessarily the perishable items, especially like for my husband and I, we just aren't going to eat that much, whatever, broccoli, huge bag of broccoli
Pancake
in a week.
mix.
We might. Definitely not pancake mix, maybe. So for those kinds of things, like the weekly stuff, the things that we're consuming on a weekly, daily basis, I hit the regular grocery store. Trader Joe's is a big one for me. The thing I love about them is organic vegetables that are pre-cut, which is just a huge time saver midweek.
And you don't have 25 choices for one thing. It's
true.
like, I really love that about Trader Joe's. It's like, we got one style of this.
Yeah.
You want it?
That is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
Take it or leave it. So one thing that we want to give you is if you were just going to buy 10 things from the grocery store for this week, what would it be?
Okay, so my 10 things, I kind of have to think about this for a second. Definitely greens. I eat a ton of greens. So I'm not talking about iceberg, obviously. I'm talking about green greens. Yeah. Fresh greens, sweet potatoes. I would definitely do that. Eggs for sure. Chicken thighs. We eat a lot of chicken thighs. We like the little fattier version of chicken. Not so many breasts in our family. Butter, grass-fed, cultured, yummy butter. Not margarine. Coconut oil for sure. And my seasoning, I would do cottage cheese. We're big cottage cheese eaters, well, especially my 3-year-old, he will eat that. Frozen blueberries. We do a lot of frozen blueberries. I actually like frozen blueberries better than fresh blueberries. I thaw them out, run them under warm water, and they're a little bit sweeter, even though they're just, frozen. And then without sugar added to them, obviously. And then sea salt, because you can do a lot with sea salt. You can make anything taste better with a little tiny bit of sea salt. So I think those are my things. I think that was 10 maybe. And steak. We eat flank steak.
Yeah, we do flank steak a lot too. Especially now that's getting nice to grill. It makes it so much easier to cook any kind of meat.
What about you? Like, out of all of those things, what would you add? Like maybe 2 or 3 things that you guys eat a lot of, or that you make sure to have?
A little more variety, probably with vegetables. So I try to keep, we do greens. I try not to do salad more than once or twice a week, just for variety purposes. Broccoli is a big one that we saute. Brussels sprouts, or Trader Joe's has these kale sprouts, which, I mean, they're organic. I don't know if they're a real vegetable or where they come from. I mean, they are.
We eat them.
Yeah, we eat them. No. They're delicious. I roast them. They get a little bit crispier on the edges than Brussels sprouts do. Yeah, peppers. We do a lot of peppers too. A lot with fajita type mixes, peppers and mushrooms, that kind of thing. Yeah, but same meats. We do a lot of different kinds of steaks. And same thing. Prefer chicken thighs to breasts. But one of the things that I think is a really good tip, you mentioned earlier with your breakfast salad, a really simple dressing. And there's probably the standard dressing that I do almost regardless of what any type of salad that I'm making, is just mustard in it. Mustard's a good binder between oil and vinegar. So mustard, a little bit of honey, and then olive oil, and either like lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, some kind of acid though, and really just those 4 ingredients.
And usually it's 3 to 1, right? So a lot of people don't realize that actually it's mostly oil. Just a little bit of vinegar. I do that too. Olive oil, a little bit of apple cider. I'm really on apple cider vinegar right now. I love it. I made a salad last night. It had greens, chopped strawberries, almonds, and some apple cider vinegar with my dressing, and it all goes together. A little sea salt and pepper.
I'm not a big dairy person, but a little bit of crumbled goat cheese sounds pretty good on that salad.
Really good. I had my friend over. She's not a cheese eater, so we left it off. But
that's nice of you. I think that's it. And in terms of like trying to keep it original, I know if I'm thinking like, meatloaf sounds really good. What meatloaf recipe do I want? Often I will just Google like paleo meatloaf, and not that I eat 100% paleo by any means, but I find that those recipes tend to have the minimalist ingredients in them, and then I can add to them, or I can look at a couple and figure out one that will work well. And I know you've talked about Well Fed.
Yeah, we really love that book, Well Fed. I mean, we look to that book a lot. For even last night, we were looking. We didn't actually make it, but the chimichurri sauce. I love chimichurri, but just. A lot of these sauces and things that you would maybe buy, you can really easily make. They have a really good pad thai.
Yeah, I was gonna say the peanut sauce. It's not peanut. It's
sunflower.
Sunflower. Yeah, sunflower butter.
Super good.
It's really good. That's one of the ones I make. I usually make extra of that too and just use it to like dip vegetables in it too.
One book that I love that people might laugh at, and it's like one of my very all-time favorites, is Food Rules by Michael Pollan. And it's really a simple little quick just flip book, really. It's not recipes or anything, but just to like flip in through one. Avoid foods you see advertised on television. And he says the reasons why, but they're just really basic things that I think everyone should read, because the things that you read in here, they actually stick with you.
Yeah.
Like even, I'm not a big cereal eater, but don't eat cereal that changes the color of your milk. Like things like that, So I really just
little
enjoy that
aha
book.
moments.
Yeah.
That is a really good one.
Yeah. Read it to your kids.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually, especially this one with the illustrations in it. It almost looks like a kid's book if you're just flipping through it. But it's things that,
That's great.
will make sense to them too.
Yeah.
All right, what do we think? Anything else to add?
Well, we could just probably keep going on and on and on about this, but I think there's some key things to take away, to really know your body's response and realize how food affects you and how it does actually fuel you, how you need to have a better relationship with food, less stress. Don't stress yourself out. Don't do a diet that's going to stress you out, because honestly, the stress response you have if you're super stressed and you're eating, I honestly feel like that response is different to that type of food, rather than if you're not stressed and you're just going to have a little bit of it. I feel like there should be, I'm going to start a research project on that maybe, but
And to keep it simple, but keep variety in it too. So make use of spices and just kind of look at different native cultures of the world and different things that they eat.
I think those are all good points.
Flavor it up a little bit. Well, if you have anything else that you would like us to comment on, or if you have questions for us directly related to this or about anything really, be sure to comment when we post it. We'd love to hear from you on Facebook, on Instagram. We're at Farmgirlfit.
And again, you could subscribe to our YouTube and eventually our iTunes channel here pretty soon. But look for Farmgirlfit. And again, we're going to do a drawing out of the first 500 subscribers on YouTube and the first 500 on iTunes. So
if you enter both places or subscribe both places, you'll be entered twice to win, or 2 prizes there. So.
And if you liked our podcast, you can definitely review us, give us good comments and tips on our topics that we've talked about and things that you want to share. We always love seeing those. And I think that thanks for listening or watching if you're doing that.
Yeah, I'll see you next time.
Bye.